Hello, 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 pilgrims. A very good Sunday morning to you on this, the ninth day of February. February. No, sir. It's December. A December morning. Let's see. The ninth day, so we got 9 from 25, about 16 days left to the big day. Hey, thank you very much for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning. Just a couple of minutes ago, I was standing out there on the balcony admiring the beautiful view of Grand Anse, the Carenage, the lagoon, and the outer harbor. Spectacular morning. We are so blessed to be graced with such beauty. And I bet those of you out there who are getting ready for good old man winter are just wishing you could be here, especially those of you in Canada. Anyhow, we're here. Come on down sometime over the holiday season, pay us a visit. Love to have you here. Interesting morning coming up. We've got a couple of people actually coming to sit here with us this morning. And we do have some pre-recorded content which we're going to share with you as well. Either way, just want to remind you that you can go to you are already on the GRENADABROADCAST.com website or on Facebook. Some of you go directly to Facebook, but some of you also join us on the GRENADABROADCAST.com website where you can see the Facebook feed. Once the program is over, we're going to upload that to YouTube. So later on this afternoon, you'll be able to go on back and take a look. But for those of you who may just be interested in the audio portion of the broadcast, which is where, quite frankly, as far as technicalities are involved, you get really good reception on Radio Genre, on TuneIn, Radio Garden, and even right here on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website. If you go to the top right-hand corner of the page, you'll be able to listen there as well. So, let's get down to brass tacks. What does he have up his sleeve this morning? I'll tell you. Incidentally, take a look. Our good friend, Mr. Yellow Light, has shown up. You know what to do. Yeah, as far as the program's concerned, we've got the buzz for you with a reading from the Holy Scriptures to get started. And then, actually, nothing in the feedback section today. Pretty quiet. But as far as editorials are concerned, we do have two for you this morning. The Grenadian voice is missing in action. But we do have the Grenada Advocate, which is captioned, "End Violence Against Women." Keep hearing that cry, and keeping my pinkies crossed that one of these days I'll be able to come to you and say, guess what? Violence against women has ended. I'm also not holding my breath. You probably noticed. I want to live just a little bit longer. The new today is captioned, "Historically Indisputable." That has to do with the Hewitt Lane case, which made its way to the Privy Council just recently. Okay, so those are your two editorials today. As far as interviews are concerned, these are the two folks I have coming in here this morning. Two tailors. Two tailors. It's captioned, "Seeking Justice in Grenada," especially in the run-up to the recent referendum on the CCJ. I'm sure you were just inundated with complaints about the state of our local judicial system. Kind of pathetic, isn't it? Well, this morning, pilgrims, I've got a couple of people coming in here. First of all, Leon Taylor. Leon he's been with us a number of times before, but Leon is a former hotelier, if you will. Many of you remember La Source Hotel. He was one of the owners of the La Source, and he has also been an environmental consultant. He had a lot to do with the development of the entire Grand Anse area down there. He's going to be joined by Lisa Taylor, who is the president of the Grenada Bar Association. Now, a couple of Taylors. This is probably one of the first questions I'm going to ask them this morning. Are they related? I don't know. I really don't know, but we're going to find out. And Lisa has also been very, very vocal about the state of the court system in Grenada. And folks, I expect that this morning's conversation is going to be a very interesting one. Very, very interesting. So please, I hope you can make it. Stay with us, and in the event that you're unable to spend all of your time with us this morning, as I mentioned, it's going to be posted on Facebook. It's also going to be on YouTube. Yeah. So you really don't have to miss anything. Our feature today, a couple of clips. We recently had a sitting of the Senate here in St. George. And as usual, same old, same old. But I did go through, I wasn't able to watch the sitting when it was on live, but I did go through and I got the broadcast, or the recordings, if you will, from the GIS, and I listened to some of the presentations. And there were a couple that really jumped out at me. And I thought, why not grab a couple of these clips and share them with your Sunday morning audience, okay? The first clip, it's actually a combination of 3 clips that I put together, where Senator Andre Lewis, who is the Labor representative in the Senate, had some things to say. 1, talked a bit about job losses. 2, about a salary increase for the press secretary. And he was also calling on government to not compromise our beaches. Okay? That's an issue that has been around for a little while. So what I did was I took those 3 clips and strung them into one clip, if you will. The other person you're going to be hearing from is Senator Ron Redhead. Now, Senator Redhead is a youngster. He's new to the Senate. And he took on the IMANI program. Yeah, Senator Redhead, Livingston Redhead, took on the IMANI program and wound up getting rebuked for something he said. He made a comment which had to be retracted. So you're going to be hearing that little exchange between him and Senator Steele, and at the time I think it was the deputy president of the Senate who was actually sitting in the chair. The president had excused himself. So those are the clips you're going to be hearing this morning. Okay, so let me, should I go to the break first, or should I say good morning to the pilgrims? Yeah, let's say hi to the folks on Facebook to get started. On Facebook, I see that, is it Reese or Ricey? Ricey Francis is saying, hi, George. Ricey Francis, is that Mag's mom? Could be. We're going to find out sooner or later. Ricey Francis is saying, good morning. Hi, George. Good morning. I finally got you this morning. Nice. I missed your program, George. I guess she missed it on Chime FM. Ricey, the program has been off Chime FM since April 30th. Come on, tell the truth. I know that you've been listening online. I know the truth. You've been listening online. Anyhow, Oswald Lewis is saying, good morning, everyone. Mickaman Alexander is also saying good morning to you folks. And Lori Bridgman is saying top of the morning to you, George. Top of the morning to you, to Lori. And Karen Archibald is saying hi to you folks. Now, Mickaman, you're the only guy in the group there. Watch that guy. He's alone this morning, at least so far. And then on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website, Rumble Chat, there is We Will Rise saying good morning and happy Sunday. Well, my dear friends, good morning to each and every one of you. And thank you so much for joining us, spending a part of your Sunday morning with us. Like I said, beautiful morning. And by the way, kind of quiet there as far as cruise ships are concerned. There have been quite a few ships coming in here, and fairly big ones. But this morning, very, very quiet down there. So I guess the taxi drivers and the vendors do have a sort of a day off to relax. If you stay with us during the week on Good Day Grenada, you'll find out what ships are coming and so on and so forth. Okay? So, let's see. Oh. I goofed. True confession. A little while ago, I thought that Ricey Francis was Margaret's mom. I mentioned that on the air. Well, Margaret has just chimed in here. She says, good morning, George. It's not my mom. Your tanty? Your nenen? I don't know. Margaret? I'm terribly sorry, Margaret. Okay. Forgive me. Hello, Penny. Penny Crowley out there in northern Quebec. Saint-Sauveur. Got it right, Penny? I'm sure I did this time. Saint-Sauveur. I've been practicing. Penny is saying, bonjour, Monsieur George. Learning my French, girl. Frosty here this morning. Sure could use some of your Grenadian sun right now. And, yeah, Penny, girl, sitting on that balcony out there, I think you would enjoy that this morning. It's just spectacular. Hardly a cloud on the sky this morning. And I haven't looked at the forecast. Forecast is usually it's going to rain or there's going to be sun. Big deal. Back to Rumble Chat for just a wee minute. Clive Baker 37 said, good morning, Uncle George. How are you? Clive, I am doing fine. And I keep wondering, who is this Clive Baker? Clive Baker 37. Well, it doesn't matter. It's just that you're a part of the family and we're delighted that you're with us. Back here now to Facebook. Margaret says LMAO. I'm not going to tell you guys what that means, but if you don't know social media lingo, you better check it out and find out what it means. And we have also been joined on Facebook by Yvonne Joseph saying good morning, George, and to her friends as well. Nice of you to join us, Yvonne. So, pilgrims, there you have it. That's your rundown for this Sunday morning, December 9th. And we're going to take a little break right now. And we will come right back with this week's edition of The Buzz.
Hubbard's, bringing you Frigidaire Christmas cheer. With the purchase of any Frigidaire fridge, freezer, stove, washer, or air conditioning unit, you get a free 3-piece Frigidaire non-stick pot set. Come into our appliance department on the Carronage and Building Supplies Grandance to get your trusted Frigidaire products and enhance your cooking this Christmas. Offer available while stocks last. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Spread some cheer and show you care with Grenlex Give a Wish promotion. Do you know someone who has had a challenging year and deserves some good fortune, or a worthy cause that needs extra support? Grant them a wish this holiday season with Grenlex. Just pay your bill in full, then write their name, address, and phone number on the top portion of your bill. Add your phone number and drop it into the wish box at any of our Grenlex customer centers, or you can enter online via our Facebook page. 15 customers will receive a $500 electricity voucher for giving a wish to someone who deserves it. And 15 winners will each have their wish granted, valued at up to $1,500. What's more, 230 lucky customers will win $75 electricity vouchers. Spread the cheer this year with Grenlex Give a Wish promotion. Visit our website or Facebook page for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Promotion ends December 21st.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Why wish upon a star? For a bank is better by far. Whatever you're wishing for this Christmas will give you low interest and no fuss.
Co-op Bank is making Christmas wishes come true. Fix up your home, treat your loved ones, and get everything on your Christmas list this year with our no-fuss loans. As we count down the 12 days to Christmas, you can win awesome prizes every day. Special terms and conditions apply.
Christmas wishes come true with Co-op Bank and you.
Welcome home.
Okay, folks. Okay. I see that we have also now been joined on Facebook by Kipling Francis. Hey, Kipling, what's going on, man? You're not on Rumble chat this morning. Decided to try Facebook for a change. Doesn't matter. Nice that you're here. Ernesto Jose says, "Good morning, Grenada and surrounding." Also, Teacher G with another episode of Education Sunday. You know, I have heard from so many people over the years that they listen to this program because they find it very educational. At the end of next month, we will have completed 14 years. Can you believe that? And I've got the gray hair to prove it. And I don't know. I never really set out to educate anybody. Like I told you, I put on my shorts on a Sunday morning, come sit here, and just spend some time, 3 hours, with friends. And that's the important part of it. That's the important part. Just knowing that there are people out there who might be interested in what you have to say. Yeah, I do try to keep an eye on things. Running this operation alone, it's very difficult for one person to cover all the bases. But I do keep an eye on things during the week and, you know, try and pick this and pick that, share it with you on a Sunday morning. So, I think that's it on Facebook and on Rumble Chat for the time being. So let's get right into this week's edition of The Buzz. As always, we begin with a reading from the Holy Scriptures. And today, the one we pulled out for you is from the book of Isaiah, chapter 29, verses 17 to 28. I quote, "In a very short time, will not Lebanon be turned into a fertile field, and the fertile field seem like a forest? In that day, The deaf will hear the words of the scroll, and out of gloom and darkness the eyes of the blind will see. Once more, the humble will rejoice in the Lord. The needy will rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. The ruthless will vanish. The mockers will disappear. And all who have an eye for evil will be cut down. Those who with a sword make someone out to be guilty, who ensnare the defender in court, and with false testimony deprive the innocent of justice. Yeah. Therefore, this is what the Lord, who redeemed Abraham, says to the descendants of Jacob. No longer will Jacob be ashamed. No longer will their faces grow pale. When they see among them their children, the work of my hands, they will keep my name holy. They will acknowledge the holiness of the Holy One of Jacob, and will stand in awe of the God of Israel. Those who are wayward in spirit will gain understanding. Those who complain will accept instruction. Pilgrims, you know, there's an old saying that history repeats itself. Could that be what's happening today in our country? And just in case you want to go back and read that in more detail, it's Isaiah chapter 29, verses 17 to 28. Okay? Now, this morning, no feedback. We have not heard from Little Angel a couple of weeks, but we'll check with her this week, see if she's okay. And so we're going to take another little break. Hold on a sec. Let's get back to Facebook for a minute. Donkey, 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 donkey. Veronica Sandy. Hey, Veronica. Veronica joins us every weekday morning. So nice to see you, my dear. She's saying good morning and a happy Sunday to everybody. Ella Mae Jackson. Ella Mae. Hello, Ella Mae. Ella Mae. Ella Mae. Nice to see you. She is saying good morning from Brandon. Where's Brandon? EJ? EJ? EJ is Ella Mae Jackson, but where's Brandon? Brandon, Manitoba? I don't know. Anyhow. And Kipling Francis is saying, yes, I am on here. So Kipling's, I guess, he's saying that he's also on Rumble chat. Nice to see you, sir. So, I'll tell you what, let's take a little break here, and we'll come on back with the editorials. As always, we'll get started with the Grenada Advocate.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical, and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners, and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandans, and Lumber Department, Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still
information, call 440-2434. Tell everybody.
Why wish upon a star? For a bank is better by far. Whatever you're wishing for this Christmas will give you low interest and no fuss.
Co-op Bank is making Christmas wishes come true. Fix up your home, treat your loved ones, and get everything on your Christmas list this year with our no-fuss loans. As we count down the 12 days to Christmas, you can win awesome prizes every day. Special terms and conditions apply.
Christmas wishes come true with Co-op Bank and you.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Okie doke, folks. Local time here in Grenada now. It's 28 minutes after the hour. Jaban has just joined us. Jaban, you missed the first few minutes, man, but good to see you. He says, good morning, George and friends. Let's thank Almighty God for giving us another day. Oh, thank you so much, Jaban, for doing that. Thank you. And yes, let us all thank Almighty God. First thing I did when I opened my eyes this morning and every morning. He's so gracious to us. Want to remind you that in just a few short minutes from now, first two guests should be in here, the Taylors, Leon Taylor and Lisa Taylor. They're coming in here to talk about seeking justice in Grenada. Folks, I'm really looking forward to that conversation because it's a very, very topical issue. It sort of peaked in the run-up to the recent referendum on whether or not Grenada should join the appellate court of the Caribbean Court of Justice. And I expect that this morning, one of the things you're going to be hearing is a perfect example of just how bad the state of things is with our court system here in Grenada right now. Leon is speaking from first-hand experience, or I should say will be speaking from first-hand experience. So, I'll tell you what. Yeah. Let's get into editorials. And the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of the Grenada Advocate is captioned, End Violence Against Women. Each year on November 25th, the world recognizes the United Nations International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The day passed with little fanfare. However, with a few more days left in the 16 days of activism, there is still time for individuals to highlight the topic and for the public to gain more awareness and get inspired to join the campaign, the aim of which is to galvanize action to end violence against women and girls around the world. One may believe that in this age of enlightenment and sophistication, violence against women is fast becoming a thing of the past. Yet, while this is true in many societies, far too many still consider girls and women unequal to males, and still do not afford them a similar level of respect. A large part of this problem is cultural. Young boys are not raised to believe in gender equality, and girls are raised to expect poor treatment. In a past article in the UK Guardian, young males in India aid their belief that girls are so foolish and silly, they have to be beaten so they can get some good ideas into their brains. While the mothers and sisters in the same community assert that, quote, all men beat their wives, and one day you will do the same. It's what you do to be manly, unquote. This type of gender inequality is evident in several Middle Eastern states and is reported frequently. Stories of girls being kidnapped and sold into slavery or passed on as spoils of war are found not only in history books, but are based on happenings in many African states, even to this present day, with the group Boko Haram becoming notorious for attacking and kidnapping girls from their families. Also, the custom of female genital mutilation still exists, and the fight against this atrocity continues. Still, the unfortunate truth is that violence against women is also found in so-called liberated Western societies, especially in the form of domestic abuse. Many male sports stars and movie celebrities use their fame and influence to cover up their horrific actions against females, and for years this has been swept under the carpet by those at the top. Fortunately, this is beginning to change, especially with the rise of the #MeToo movement, which, though not aimed at violent actions per se, focuses on the victimization and manipulation of women, usually at the hands of males. As we continue in these 16 days of activism, we urge all Grenadians to take a moment to reflect on the women in your lives and the roles they play in the community. Be introspective and acknowledge gender biases and make an effort to change for the better. That, Pilgrims, is the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of the Grenada Advocate. We do have one more for you, and that's from the New Today. We'll get to that in just a wee bit. But let me see here. Javon says, I detest misogynists. True women and mothers discriminate against females. Sad. Female circumcision is barbaric. So says Javon. Okay? All right, folks. I'm going to take another little teeny-weeny little break here. And we'll come back with the editorial from the New Today.
Spread some cheer and show you care with GRENADABROADCAST Give-A-Wish promotion. Do you know someone who has had a challenging year and deserves some good fortune, or a worthy cause that needs extra support? Grant them a wish this holiday season with GRENADABROADCAST. Just pay your bill in full, then write their name, address, and phone number on the top portion of your bill. Add your phone number and drop it into the wish box at any of our GRENADABROADCAST customer centers, or you can enter online via our Facebook page. 15 customers will receive a $500 electricity voucher for giving a wish to someone who deserves it. And 15 winners will each have their wish granted, valued at up to $1,500. What's more, 230 lucky customers will win $75 electricity vouchers. Spread the cheer this year with GRENADABROADCAST Give-A-Wish promotion. Visit our website or Facebook page for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Promotion ends December 21st.
Okie dokie, okie doke. The old ticker here says it's 21 minutes away from 10 o'clock. And any minute now, I do expect my first guest to start arriving. But before we get to them, let's get into the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of The New Today. It is captioned, Historically Indisputable. It is rather unfortunate, but we've been forced to respond to one Ewart Lane, better known as Headache, a former lieutenant colonel in the disbanded People's Revolutionary Army of the ill-fated 1979-1983 Grenada Revolution. Mr. Lane has approached the host of the New Today website to block or remove certain articles carried about him by this newspaper, which he said is aimed at trying to influence the outcome of his appeal to the Privy Council hearing on his desperate attempt to be admitted to practice as an attorney at law in this country. It should be noted that 35 years after the mass murders at Fort George, this top Army officer is still trying to mislead the Grenadian people by giving the impression that he is an innocent man, and that in the fullness of time, history will absolve him of the accusations and convictions pinned on him. It is historically indisputable that Mr. Lane is a convicted murderer with 10 convictions and 1 for manslaughter in connection with the mass killings on the fort on October 19th, 1983, that snuffed out the lives of Prime Minister Maurice Bishop, 3 cabinet members, and several others. What was published about Mr. Lane by the new today are established and historical facts about this top Army officer, because he cannot truthfully deny that he is not a person with an atrocious criminal record of several serious murder offenses. A court of law has already ruled on the character of Mr. Lane, a man deemed not to be a person of good character, and can be subjected to the publication of those facts about him, which undoubtedly form part of his past criminal record and conduct. Mr. Lane played a significant role in the destruction of the Grenada Revolution, and has so far failed to give a truthful and proper account to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique about the bloody events that shook the entire world 35 years ago. He has admitted that he was the day-to-day commander of the PRA and the one who took the decision, all on his own, to dispatch troops to the fort where Prime Minister Bishop, who was the commander-in-chief, had taken refuge after being freed from house arrest by the masses. The logical conclusion is that Mr. Lane had a responsibility to account for the bodies of those killed on the fort as the commander who gave the order to recapture the Army base. He has never accounted for the bodies, but evidence came out in the trial in which he was convicted of 10 murders, that Prime Minister Bishop and those who were executed on the fort after being captured, that their bodies were burnt in a mass hole at Camp Calavini. Mr. Lane has remained silent over the years on the remains of those executed, when he should be taking responsibility for failing to hand over the bodies in keeping with our Christian tradition for a proper burial. Is Mr. Lane forgetting that the Army High Command, of which he was the day-to-day commander, promised to hand over the bodies to family members after 2 years? Was it big stones they were planning to put in the coffins, since the bodies were already destroyed, as part of a grand tomfoolery to the grieving family members who lost their loved ones? Mr. Lane, please tell us who gave the order for the executions. The soldiers and armored carriers did their jobs as instructed, and must have reported to you, as the commander who dispatched them, that the mission was accomplished. It is an established fact that Prime Minister Bishop, Unison Whiteman, Jacqueline Kraft, Nora Spain, and others did not die in the crossfire, as the Army had told the people in a public statement from General Hudson Austin. The logical question to be answered by Mr. Lane is the following. When Prime Minister Bishop and the others were captured and taken to the top square of the fort, what did you, as the commander who sent the soldiers on the mission, do with the information supplied to you? Mr. Lane must answer that one 35 years later, without falsification of history. Mr. Lane, if, as the commander who sent the troops to storm the fort, and Callistus Iman Abdullah Bernard, and the others who formed the execution squad had acted without orders to kill the Prime Minister and his colleagues, then why were they not held to account for the executions? Please, please answer, Mr. Lane. The New Today has listened to a tape recording of an emulation ceremony held a few days after the mass murders on the fort, in which another convicted bishop killer, Mobilization Minister Selwyn Strawn, addressed the soldiers and specifically praised them, in particular the machine gunner Cosmas Inculcate Richardson, who took out Bishop and the others on the top square with rapid fire. Strawn actually said that these soldiers had saved the lives of Central Committee members, of which Mr. Lane was a member, from being killed by Bishop and his supporters. Isn't it true, Mr. Lane, that there was an emulation ceremony after the massacre and slaughter of the people on the fort? Mr. Lane, why would you try to equate 4 buckets of sand when truckloads of sand are taken away from our beaches with the mass murders on the fort, including the killing of a Prime Minister and Commander-in-Chief of the Grenada Revolution? Mr. Lane, what was the crime Prime Minister Bishop committed to warrant his execution? Why did you and the other convicted Central Committee members not hand over the bodies to the families for a Christian burial? Was the burning of the bodies a military operation too, that you, as the day-to-day commander, had ordered? The historical fact is that Joseph Ewart Lane has been convicted in a Grenadian court of 10 murders and 1 manslaughter, and history cannot erase that. The court that tried Mr. Lane is the very one that was set up by the Grenada Revolution, and also convicted and sentenced many persons who were deemed as counter-revolutionaries during the 1979-1983 era. Mr. Lane, the sweeping powers that you once possessed between 1979 and 1983 have gone forever, and it will not be easy for you to kill anyone in Grenada again. Yeah. Okay, folks. That's the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of The New Today. Actually, hold on a sec here. That final paragraph reads, let me reread that for you. Mr. Lane, the sweeping powers that you once possessed between 1979 and 1983 have gone forever, and it will not be easy for you to kill anyone in Grenada again, including George Worm, whether directly or indirectly. Folks, that's your editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of The New Today. 9 minutes, let's make that more like 8 minutes away from top of the hour. And Still awaiting my guest. Back here to Facebook for just a wee bit here. Yeah, a couple of comments which I missed a short while ago on Facebook. First of all, Margaret Francis says, if the advocate is serious about violence against women, then it should seriously consider talking about Grenada first. In other words, clean the beam in your eyes before talking about the mote in your brother's eyes. So says Margaret out there. Agatha Jordan is saying good morning to you folks and greetings from a beautiful Carriacou. Morning, Aggie. And she says, hi, my dear friend Ryan, top of the morning to you. Fitzroy Adams says, good morning, George. Grenadians have to put politics aside and work together. This is the only way Grenada will go forward successfully. No kidding, Fitzroy, no kidding. In my humble opinion, don't have to agree with me, the key reason why we are in the mess we're in this place right now is politics. In local parlance, I hear people say politics. Anyhow, that's going to do it for your editorials this morning. And by the way, Lisa Taylor, hello, Lisa. Lisa has shown up. She is here. And come on in and have a seat, young lady. Come on in and have a seat. Lisa will be with us momentarily. And we're also awaiting the arrival of a good buddy there, Mr. Leon Taylor. So, as Lisa makes her way in and takes her seat and saddles up for this morning session, let's take another break. We'll
Hubbard's, bringing you Frigidaire Christmas Cheer. With the purchase of any Frigidaire fridge, freezer, stove, washer, or air conditioning unit, you get a free 3-piece Frigidaire non-stick pot set. Come into our appliance department on the Carronage and Building Supplies Grandance to get your trusted Frigidaire products and enhance your cooking this Christmas. Offer available while stocks last. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Spread some cheer and show you care with Grenlex Give-A-Wish promotion. Do you know someone who has had a challenging year and deserves some good fortune, or a worthy cause that needs extra support? Grant them a wish this holiday season with Grenlex. Just pay your bill in full, then write their name, address, and phone number on the top portion of your bill. Add your phone number and drop it into the wish box at any of our Grenlex customer centers, or you can enter online via our Facebook page. 15 customers will receive a $500 electricity voucher for giving a wish to someone who deserves it. And 15 winners will each have their wish granted, valued at up to $1,500. What's more, 230 lucky customers will win $75 electricity vouchers. Spread the cheer this year with Grenlex Give-A-Wish promotion. Visit our website or Facebook page for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Promotion ends December 21st.
Why wish upon a star? For a bank is better by far. Whatever you're wishing for this Christmas will give you low interest and no fuss.
Co-op Bank is making Christmas wishes come true. Fix up your home, treat your loved ones, and get everything on your Christmas list this year with our no-fuss loans. As we count down the 12 days to Christmas, you can win awesome prizes every day. Special terms and conditions apply.
Christmas wishes come true with Co-op Bank and you.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
You know, every time I play that piece, I see a couple of shoes in there that just make me go, yeah, really, really nice shoes. Anyhow, folks, I mentioned to you a little while ago that Lisa is here, and you probably noticed a little pause there a few minutes ago, and the reason for that is that Leon has also arrived, but Lisa has gone out there to open the gate for him, and I'm just awaiting them to return. They'll be back in here momentarily. However, in the meantime, let me make a quick visit here to Rumble Chat on the Shout Box. We have now been joined by Opie, a little bit late, but he's here. Opie says, "Good morning, George and class, and a pleasant week to all. Our Constitution is under serious threat, and we the citizens must unite and protect, modernize, and ensure that politicians are held accountable in the execution of their duties. Any change in the Constitution of Grenada requires a two-thirds majority of the electorate." So says Opie on Rumble Chat. Well, Opie, I certainly hope that you're going to sit there with your ears and eyes wide open, because in the conversation that's just about to get started, I guarantee you that's an issue that's going to come up big time. Yes, sirree, big time. For some time now, it appears that our Constitution has been going downhill. Not just the Constitution, but this style of governance you called democratic or democracy. Yeah. So I urge you, please, hang in there, because these folks, they're on their way back in here, and they'll be up with us very shortly. In the meantime, Georgie Porgy is going to continue trying to kill some time. And I just want to give you an update on the cruise industry. No ships in town this morning, as I mentioned to you a little while ago. And there's not going to be another ship in here until Tuesday. Tuesday, they're expecting 2 ships, a biggie and a little-y. The biggie on Tuesday is the Azura, which is due to arrive in here at 8 o'clock in the morning and will remain in port until 6 o'clock in the evening. And that has a capacity of 3,100 persons on board. And there's also going to be a little one of those beautiful sailboats that you see here from time to time. And that one is called the Club Med 2. She is due in here at 8 o'clock as well, but will be departing at 7 o'clock. Small ship, only a capacity of about 386. Now that's Tuesday. On Wednesday, you have a pretty big one coming in here, the Celebrity Summit, due at 8 o'clock, departing at 6. Capacity 2,460. That's on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, you have the Celebrity Celebration, which arrives at 8, departs at 6. Capacity 3,030. Also on that day, so that's going to be a busy day here. You've got the MSC Preziosa, 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 okay. Due in here at 9 o'clock in the morning, departing at 7 in the evening. Her capacity, 2,850. That's Thursday. Friday, you got 2 more. The Britannia comes in here at 8 o'clock in the morning with a capacity of 4,324. Now, Mr. Taylor has arrived. Mr. Taylor has arrived, but he's asked for a few minutes so that he could put on his makeup, his lipstick, and his eyeshadow, and whatever other stuff you people usually put on. However, I'll tell you what. In the meantime, I'm gonna say good morning. You see this lady sitting here? Look at that. Look at that bright smile. That is Lisa Taylor, the president of the Grenada Bar Association, who has kindly considered to spend some time with us this morning. Hello, Lisa. How are you, girl?
Morning, George. Very well, thanks. Good Sunday morning to you. Lovely.
Good. Yeah.
Nice out there.
Nice sunny out there.
Yeah, I should be on the beach. Why am I here with you?
Love, and a lot of years of friendship. We go back a long time.
Long time, George. Long time.
Yeah. Lisa, listen, man, we're going to wait until Leon gets back to really get into a deep conversation about the court system here in Grenada. But how are things going? You're the new president of the Bar Association, and I would imagine you're still getting your feet wet, or have you gotten your feet wet?
Well, newish. As of July 5th this year, I took on this responsibility. And I have to tell you that the bar executive has been singularly consumed, I would say, by one issue. And that is the problem with the lack of court facilities.
Yeah.
So, pretty much a baptism of fire. I mean, I've served on the executive before. It's not a challenge that's unknown to me, but I don't know that it has ever been as bad as it is now.
Really?
Yeah, that would be my assessment. And I think a lot of lawyers share that assessment. I'm not sure that the government shares that assessment, but that's the nature of the thing.
Girl, we're going to get into all of that. And, in preparation for this morning, I've been reading an article which was written by Leon. I think it was back in July
Okay.
of this year. And I think he made mention of the fact that the Attorney General, Sir Lawrence Joseph, in 2000, I think it was, in 13, had mentioned that this backlog in the court system had gone all the way back about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. There are many angles to this, which is why I unreservedly make the point that I don't know that I have ever seen it as bad as it is now. And I speak from the experience of having been at the bar for 22 years. And we've seen challenges. Some of them have been somewhat overcome. Some of them have been ongoing, and they ebb and flow. But it's just that there's so many issues on so many fronts. So the backlog is one issue, and that will be affected by the lack of court facilities or appropriate court facilities, and there are a number of things we can talk about. So I expect with what's been going on now, I don't have a specific I was trying to get a hold of that, but maybe I can shoot you an email later on. As to what this has done to the existing, because I expect necessarily it will be.
Okay, he's back. I think he's back. He's back. Let me pull him up here for a minute. Mr. Taylor he is settling down. Let me see if we can pull him up here on screen. There he is. Mr. Taylor, good morning, sir.
Good morning. I was almost locked out this morning, but
Leon, I never...
Driving it.
but it's okay. All's well that ends well. Yeah.
Okay. Leon, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you.
Thank you. Same here, and Lisa too.
You know, boy, I've been really looking forward to this conversation. You mentioned to me several weeks ago that you were very concerned about the court system in this
Yes.
country, and you wanted to talk about it. And at some point, I'm going to ask you. I told our listeners this morning that you have experienced it firsthand, so you're not just
Yeah.
somebody on the sideline, blah 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 blah.
Yes.
Leon, we're going to get into that in just a bit. But when you suggested that we have this conversation, you also suggested that I invite Lisa, and I guess that's because you know that she too has been very concerned about what's happening here in Grenada. First of all, Lisa Taylor, Leon Taylor, you guys ain't husband and wife. That I know.
I think we've confronted this question before. This is a small community. I've
Just bring
shaken my family tree,
Lisa.
as
Hold
I'm
on,
sure he has.
Lisa. Just bring the mic a little closer to you. For some reason, I'm not. Just lift it up a little bit.
Okay, I don't know if that helps you.
Ah,
Is that a little better?
for some reason, I'm really hardly hearing you, and I'm wondering why. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
You checked your levels. Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little
Right.
bit better.
I was about to answer your no, certainly not husband and wife. Taylor is my family name, not my married name, but I have confronted this inquiry before in relation to Leon and other members of the local Taylor clan. And so far as I know, the Taylor in my name is definitely Bajan.
Oh,
From my,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
And so, as far as I know, there is absolutely no connection with the local clan. And I'm certain that Leon will verify that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm never much interested in tracing my family because I don't know what I'm going to discover. A friend of mine traced his family and found that one of his forefathers was hanged in Jamaica for stealing
Oh, good Lord.
back in the 1700s. But
Okay.
yeah, so yes, I think that there is a Taylor. The Taylors crossed from Scotland, I think, and they reached Barbados, and they were so sick and tired of the boat that some stayed in Barbados, some went to Ghana, and some came to Grenada. So off of those people, you get different strains, I guess.
Okay. It's like me. When I came back to Grenada, I learned that I have a lot of grand families in this place. I mean, we're originally from St. Paul's, but I found out we got grands in Guava as well. You know?
It's the nature of our Caribbean
Yeah,
history
yeah.
and
But
circumstances.
Taylor is a name that we respect, so
Okay.
I was bearers of it.
All right.
Yeah.
You'll get no quarrel from me on that quarter.
Let's get right into this discussion. Leon, I want you to start at the beginning. I mean, for you to just come to me and say, hey, listen, I really want to talk about the court system, something's got to have bugged you, I would imagine. What bugged you?
Well, there's so many dimensions to it that I think we have to. What I experienced the court system for the first time as an expert witness in Barbados in in the 80s. And the actual case took 1 year, 6 months of court time, and the judgment took 5 hours to deliver. Excuse me. And during that time, I realized that the process of examination, cross-examination, and re-examination is essential to the court system to get into the truth. All right. My experience was there was an engineer who posed as a professional engineer and an expert witness. He had a big practice, but he was discovered in court that he was not qualified, and he didn't have the credentials to be. And this would never have come out had you not gone through that process. And then I spent many occasions as an expert witness in St. Lucia. And I never had an opportunity to perform in Grenada, although I've written reports as an engineer. And I find that I'm concerned. I don't, at my age, you got time to burn, although you procrastinate a lot. So you waste a lot of time. But I spent a number of years in the university, and I walk around, I have time, or drive around, and look and see what's going on in this society. And I've become concerned. Firsthand, I experienced the loss of the source, I would say, so because of the courts, the lethargy of the court system. Up to now, I haven't got a date in court.
Tell us about that La Source issue. Tell us about the La Source.
The La Source issue? Well, it's in my... I wrote 2 articles and they were published in Grenada now. The first one is Seeking Justice in Grenada. Has the court judicial system collapsed? And the second one is Seeking Justice in Grenada, Part 2. Justice delayed is justice denied. And it's better if I just glance at my thing here. Ooh.
Leon is putting on his specs.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to do when you're wearing those headphones. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, okay.
Okay, here we go. The resort was thought to be so important that the government of Grenada in 1991 invested in it. And through LOMI 5, that was Mr. Honorable George Brazan, deceased. We opened in 93, became very successful, and we employed 240 Grenadians permanently. When Hurricane Ivan hit, we were insured by 3 insurers on the same policy, 2 of which paid. The third one denied liability. I guess counting on the lethargy of the court system to...
I have to stop Leon there.
Huh?
Full disclosure. And I know that we have limited time. I'm going to make some concessions so that we can fast forward. As Leon is aware, I worked for a firm which represents the insurance company. So if he's going to go on, I am concerned about speaking about the global problem in the court. And I understand that this is a particular issue for Leon, and it is probably a pretty good illustration when he speaks of the lethargy and those issues. That's very much a feature of what concerns us at the bar. But I'm concerned, because I know that we have constraints on time, that if we become preoccupied with this one matter, as important as it is to Leon, I concede. So I'm going to concede that we do have a problem with the lack of timeliness in the court system, that we do have a severe problem with the lack of timeliness with the delivery of judgments. And I know that Leon has been particularly affected because this is a matter that has been winding its way through the courts. And the delays have been occasioned by several factors, chief among them, I think, some of the deficiencies in the court system. But I'm anxious to speak not just of a particular matter, but of the global.
Yeah.
The economists speak of it in macro terms.
Okay.
Because as important as this matter is to Leon, and I appreciate that, Leon is one of a wide mass of members of the public who are adversely affected by what is happening in the court system. So, Leon, I don't want to steal your thunder,
No.
but I know that George
at all.
has given us very limited time, and we need to
I
get
was
to it.
responding to.
You know, I appreciate that.
directly.
I appreciate
But
that.
basically, what happened, justice in Grenada, justice delayed is justice denied, because what happens is that
Absolutely.
by the time you get a judgment, sometimes there are a lot of people who have died.
Mm-hmm.
3 of my of the 5 original investors in the source have passed away, and you know. And
Sometimes
this
before you
thing-
get to trial, critical
Yeah.
witnesses die.
Yeah.
That's another
Yeah.
aspect that's
And
very alarming.
and by the time you get, I lost the hotel, so by the time I get judgment, I can't regain what I lost. So that's what they mean by here's a case of justice delayed, justice denied.
You mentioned a little while ago about a couple of articles that you had written, and I read them last night, and one of them mentioned that back in 2013, Sir Lawrence pointed to the fact that the determination of matters at the time was taking more than 7 years. That's 5 years ago. And Lisa, I guess that all had to do with the delays in people's matters being heard. Is that?
Well, I won't quarrel with that assessment, and I would say to you, I'm pretty certain that we've seen no real improvement in that, because in some circumstances, in some aspects, we have deteriorated. We've gone through, in the Grenada court system, periodic backlog reduction exercises in recognition of these tremendous delay periods. I have known of at least 2 since I have been at the bar, and they've had some positive impact, but it seems every time we've made a positive step in reducing the backlog, to whatever extent, I don't have the statistics, some other intervening event or events come along, and we're back to where we started, and sometimes maybe far worse. We just concluded, when I say just recently, a jurist project, and that was one of the projects intended to address the backlog. So special judges were set up as part of this project, special courts. We were the beneficiary of additional courts simply to tackle this backlog, and some headway was made. I don't have the actual case number, but I know that several cases were disposed of. And now we're back to a situation where, as of May this year, for an extended period, we were without a court at all. I mean, I don't have to explain to the Grenadian public what it means to any backlog of cases where your courts are not functioning. So in May of this year, for reasons which I think certainly to the local population are notorious now, the facility we used, the former Grentel building, Lime building on the Carnage, had to be decommissioned so that the civil courts were not sitting at all, and for a time both civil and criminal courts. The court proceeded on its usual long period of vacation, being the end of July, and we expected to reopen the courts in mid-September. That did not happen. In fact, it was only until the 22nd of October that we were able to find a temporary facility in the Parliament building, which is not a court, I hasten to say. It is a temporary facility where a single civil court is operating, and operating within the parliamentary schedule. So that means that whenever the parliament has need of its facilities, the court literally is booted out. We experienced that recently with the sitting of the Senate. We experienced that recently with the whole budget exercise and the throne speech delivery. So even that limited opportunity we have to be functioning as a court is interrupted because the Parliament needs its building from time to time in its entirety, we were able to resume the functioning of a single criminal court, and that's at St. John Street. And that's as it is. So I have the expectation that when all is said and done and when all the statistics are calculated, we will find that we may have surpassed the backlog which was reduced recently through the Jurist project. And that is why I say, among other reasons, this is as bad as it's ever been. I want to offer, because there's an historical context to this. When the Chief Justice of the East Caribbean Supreme Court, of which Grenada is a member, opened a law term September 2018, as is the usual custom, she delivered an opening address. And I noted this paragraph in particular, and there she was focusing, among other things, she addressed the lack of financial support of the constituent member governments of the court, and that is itself an issue, because there are certain obligations which each of these governments have to meet the court's financial needs, and in some instances, some of the governments are behind. And so you have a buildup of arrears, and that has implications as well for the efficient servicing of the court system. But that aside, she focused on the specific issue of court facilities, and here's what she said. She mentioned that this is an ancient problem, admittedly so. The court has celebrated 51 years this year, and she mentioned that 51 years since the establishment of this court, little, if anything, has been done. Courtrooms are still housed in ill-suited buildings which have passed attendance, security, and health risks to court users and occupiers. She noted the fact that you will have closures from time to time, as happened because of the passage of hurricanes in other parts of the Caribbean, and we certainly had that experience in 2004. But that notwithstanding, she was very clear that this was an untenable situation, and these failures pose a real threat to access to justice and justice delivery. And that she urged Caribbean peoples who are affected by these circumstances to stand up and speak up, because I want to be clear, this is not a problem for lawyers. This is a problem for the public. Certainly it affects the livelihood of lawyers insofar as we can't proceed with matters that we are engaged in and we're paid for. But fundamentally, this is an access to justice issue which affects the public. I recall recently, for instance, someone complaining to me that having waited quite a long time to have their adjourned matter given a date because of the situation with the court closing, and finally getting a date, and then the court could not sit because the Parliament needed its building for its own purposes, and so the matter had to be further adjourned. That's just one very small example. So I have been listening to the utterances of public officials on this, and I'm very upset about the fact that there seems to be this tendency to want to gloss over this particular crisis that we face now. Gloss over it to the extent that it's being neatly dismissed as a little problem of us having to vacate the Lime building. And it's not that. This is a problem that historically has plagued us. It has become more acute in recent times because of what happened in 2004. But 2004 to 2018, it's inconceivable that we should still be resting this issue on the back of Hurricane Ivan. Mm-hmm. It's just inconceivable. We now hear pronouncements about a hall of justice. I'll tell you what the bar's position is and has been clearly articulated. We have gone from building to building. The last problem in the Lime building was the last in a series of such instances where we've had to vacate a building largely due to health or security concerns. It's not the first time it's happened. After Ivan, we were in Middleton House, which belongs to Hubbard's. The landlord literally had to throw us out of there because they had concerns that the building was not, it needed urgent repairs. The court had to leave. We were in Rowley House, owned by the Anglican Church. We've been hither and all over the place. And this scenario has been repeatedly the same. We stay there until the building is no longer fit for health or security reasons, and then we have to find another home. So the bar has articulated to the Minister of Legal Affairs, to the Attorney General, to whomever, that this is where we are. We want to be housed in a facility, not unlike what happened with Lime, where all the courts can be located. And that is for the the comfort and convenience of the lawyers, the judges, the public. The public needs to know if I have a case, I don't have to be hunting all over, as happened recently, because people are now accustomed that they're going to the Parliament building. That had to be disrupted because of the Senate sitting, and we had to move down to another location. And then members of the public couldn't find, they don't know where to go. So our articulated position was, give us a building, because we see the Hall of Justice as an illusory dream. We want it, we've asked for it. We know it will take some time. It has been promised for decades now. But until that can happen, give us a space where all the courts can be housed, and the ancillary staff and all the amenities can be accommodated, so that people have certainty. They know this is where the courthouse is. We can be there comfortably without fear of mold infestations and carbon monoxide and dioxide and radiation and all the other things that have challenged judges, lawyers, and the public. And we will stay there until we get our Hall of Justice. So the demand that we made as a bar is this is going to be our final resting place until we get the Hall of Justice. And it was in that context that we were promised that negotiations were well advanced. This was a public declaration by the Minister of Legal Affairs to acquire a certain former bank facility in St. George's. I happen to know why that is no longer going to be the case. I don't want to usurp the position of the minister. It is for the minister to come to the public, having made that declaration, to say that that is no longer going to happen. And once we as the bar became aware that that was no longer going to happen, we have been pressing to have another like facility, meaning another facility where all the courts can be housed. So we're not prepared to accept a situation where, as has been advanced to us, we're going to have 2 courts in one location, another one up the road, another one down the road. I mean, it's difficult for the public and the lawyers and the court staff to navigate those circumstances. And we have literally vetted every conceivable building you can consider within the St. George's area. And it's specific to St. George's because the hub of the court is a registry. The Supreme Court registry is the engine room of the court. And it is very, very difficult, as has happened when we had to be at the Trade Center. And people have been saying, well, why don't you go to the Trade Center? The Trade Center is not a court. If Mr. Bedeau needs to have activities for which he has contractual obligations, guess what? The court doesn't sit on that day. So you have these continued interruptions.
More delays.
You have court staff having to traverse from Church Street down to Grand Dance with court files. The files aren't delivered. The matters can't go on. And so we've said we're not prepared to accept those scenarios any longer. We need a space in St. George's because we need that proximity to the registry so that you can have a fighting chance that the matters can go on in a timely and efficient way. And we've located such a place. And so at this point, we are pushing very hard for the government to conclude negotiations so that we can all be housed in that facility. We gave the government a deadline of the 31st of December of this year for that to happen. It is manifestly not going to happen by that deadline. I can't say as I sit here when it will happen. We have been lauded publicly for our cooperation on this issue, but I think lawyers are losing patience, and something a little more than cooperation may have to manifest in order for the government to realize that this is a far more serious problem than their actions have suggested. And you're going to hear from the government side, we're doing everything, and I heard the minister expressing confidence in the last budget debate that this problem will be resolved. Well, we're losing confidence, you know? But this has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed with a level of urgency that we frankly are not satisfied that we're seeing. And the public needs to become sensitive that this is something that they need to be giving voice to, because as I say, it's not a lawyer issue. It is a public issue. And we need to have confidence. And the proof of the pudding for these matters is, well, what does the budget say about this? And there have been some good things said. For instance, part of the problem that was in the public domain recently was what can happen when you don't have efficient transcription services, so that people are sitting around waiting for transcripts to have their appeal matters heard. We have had this spectacular situation. I say spectacular, not in a positive sense. And I mean, wrap your mind around this. You file an appeal. You're under a conviction. You file an appeal. You're sitting in jail waiting for your appeal to be heard. And in the time it takes for you to get a transcript for your appeal matter to be determined, And imagine if that appeal is determined in your favor, yes? And your conviction is overturned. You will have served. The entire time that you're sitting waiting on the transcript is as long as the sentence you're seeking to challenge. How can that be justice? How can that be fair? Right? Those are some of the issues that we are confronting. So when I heard in the budget that they're making provisions for some additional transcriptionists, I say hooray, because that is sorely needed. That is only one aspect. How many, George, take a visit to the registry. I challenge you. And I'm not saying that this is a new problem. But when you have a problem that is historically not resolved, it doesn't get better because you're not focused on it. It simply gets worse. I challenge you and any member of the media, take a look at the registry, which is supposed to be the central hub of the court system, which is where all commercial transactions regarding land in Grenada and transfer of land are dealt with at that one place. And you tell me whether that place is positioned, it has been resourced sufficiently to serve that purpose. You're not going to find positive things when you take that talk.
Try not to beat up on your microphone
Okay.
too much. But you're listening to Lisa here. What's going through your mind? I notice you're chuckling.
Well, I don't think you can expect the Bar Association to resolve the problem.
Leon, I'm glad you say that, because
can't.
that's been my concern of late. I am concerned that we have been very proactive as Bar. We haven't sat back, right? There have been no marches, not yet. We're sitting back waiting for something to happen. We have been involved in this process. When I heard that there was a committee set up by the government to address this issue of the court, I made myself available, and members of the Bar, we have walked and we've done but I fear that in some quarters that is being seen as in some way that we have some kind of responsibility. The Bar doesn't have a responsibility to find a court in Grenada. We will assist the problem. We will make recommendations. We will, as we have done, say to the registrar when certain facilities were suggested, we're not going to accept that. I mean, I know we're in a crisis situation, and we've become accustomed to accepting substandard solutions because of exigent circumstances. But there's a bar below which we will not cross. And we've played that role. We've made suggestions. We have been hand in hand. But ultimately, it is not the responsibility of the Grenada Bar Association to solve this problem. We are a stakeholder. We will support, we will cooperate, we will help, we will do all that is necessary. But fundamentally, this is a problem for the government of Grenada to fix.
Exactly.
And
you're not the cause. You're not the cause of the problem either.
When people are lauding the cooperation of the bar, that's what a proactive bar is supposed to do. But ultimately, it's you to fix the problem.
Leon, you were saying?
No, I said neither is it the cause caused by the Bar Association. There are three pillars of government. The judicial is the third one, and the most important one, right? It's the most important pillar. It's the government's responsibility. And I am surprised at how callous the whole thing of delivering justice has been treated in Grenada. I'd just like to read one part of what I wrote. And it states in our first article, the Chief Justice of the United States, Warren Burger, stated in 1970, a sense of confidence in the courts is essential to maintain the fabric of ordered liberty for a free people. And three things can destroy this confidence and do incalculable damage to society.
Leon, don't touch the mic.
Okay.
Please.
That people come to believe that inefficiency and delay will drain even a just judgment of its value. That people have been exploited in the smaller transactions of life to believe that the courts cannot vindicate their legal rights from fraud and overreaching, and that people come to believe that the law, in a large sense, cannot fulfill its primary function. So what we don't realize is that, as he stated in the 90s, incalculable damage is being done to the Grenada society by not having a proper function judicial system. And it's not just the court, there's not enough judges. Isn't that correct, Lisa?
Well, you can't have a judge if you don't have a courthouse for them to be in. And that's
And-
literally part of we had got to the point where when we were in the line building, largely because of some of the positive spill-off from the jurist project. I don't want to get into that, but just to say, we had got to the point where we actually had 5 courtrooms. So this is what I say, you make a step forward and we're always seemingly going back. And right now, there are judges, because the appointment of judges, to an extent, is the province of the Chief Justice, apart from the other administrative aspects that go into it. Right now, there is at least one civil judge awaiting news about a place where that judge can sit so that he can come to Grenada. I mean, listen, think about one judge in Grenada having to deal with all civil matters for the time being. You know, I chuckle when I hear parties, including the government, boasting about taking people to court and filing injunctions and doing. It's the one judge. I pray that his health will not fail him. Right? So that's where we are. And we shouldn't be here.
Well, what?
You know,
Sorry.
Leon, you just quoted the piece from one of the articles that you wrote. There's another part very close to that you also wrote, and I want to quote it here. It says, "The judiciary is responsible for settling all disputes. It is the dispenser of justice, the check against the arbitrary exercise of power by those who hold power, the safeguard against legislative and executive excess, the guardian of the rule of law and justice, and the protector of," this is the part that got to me, "the protector of the Constitution and the fundamental rights of the people." You know, guys, what you're talking about here is not just an inconvenience to somebody who's charged or somebody who's been convicted or whatever. This goes deeper, Lisa. Deeper. Big time.
It's a crisis. I have consistently used that word. I refuse to apologize for it. I used it when I spoke at the opening of the law term. There were those who thought it was a little too excessive. But you have 3 arms of government. And the executive arm is more or less comfortably ensconced at the ministerial complex. The legislative arm is more recently comfortably ensconced at the Parliament building. The judicial arm should receive no less focus and importance. And to the extent that the executive arm, through its action or inaction, I make no apology for saying that, it is a form of, and this has been borne out in court rulings, it is a form of almost oppression. Because to the extent that the executive arm, through its action or inaction, does not do what is necessary to ensure that the resources, the plant and machinery, so to speak, and when I say resources, human and other resources are not in place so that they can carry out the function which the Constitution contemplates, then we have a problem. You have a dysfunctional state.
Yep.
Because a state is not supposed to function through its 2 arms. Each arm is as important as the other. And when you don't do what is necessary, and who else but the executive has the financial wherewithal and other resources to be able to do what is necessary in the case of court facilities and all the other amenities that are under siege? Who else? The judges can go and deal with this problem. The Chief Justice can say whatever, and she's been very forceful, but at the end of the day, she's looking to the resources which the court requires to be able to do what is necessary, to make sure there are proper facilities, proper judicial and sufficiency of judicial officers, proper staff, sufficiency of staff. Those are all aspects that rest squarely at the feet of the executive. And this can't continue. And we can't continue to gloss over it as if it's, you know, and I want to make the point because sometimes I get a lot of feedback walking around, you know, interacting with people. And some of the things I've heard, you know, oh, you're all too nitpicky. In other words, any port for a stall. Why y'all not going to stadium? Why, these judges too fussy. I mean, we have judges who willingly, because they know the importance of getting the work done, who've sat in the mediation center, which is a building on Scott Street. I invite you to go down there when it rains to see what judges and the public have to endure, right? In a cramped space where the judges, the lawyers, the public, tout le monde have to share one bathroom space. So you have a spectacle of a judge having to endure discomfort, waiting for a public facility to be made available so he or she can relieve him or herself. The possible prospect of a judge encountering a litigant in that space, right? I mean, these are real issues. And people have tried to work in very substandard conditions because we all recognize the importance. When the court refused and the lawyers refused to sit at the makeshift arrangement that was made at Kaipo, it wasn't because we're being fussy. It was because we thought that fundamentally, as much as we're prepared to try and work with what we have, it was too much to expect the judge, the lawyers, members of the public to access a place where they were in danger of contracting leptospirosis. Those are real concerns. Those aren't contrived concerns. But, I mean, people have tried. The court staff has been remarkable in what they've had to endure and the difficulties that they still endure. So it's not a matter where we're trying to be elitist. We're talking about fundamental issues of health, safety, and security that cannot be met for us to function in a court system and dispense justice.
Yeah, on the point I was making, the damage to the thing, I wrote as a closing paragraph of my first article, Grenadians are likely to be shocked to learn that the World Bank rates Grenada at the bottom of the barrel relative to its CARICOM neighbors in the ease of doing business, and Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index for Grenada rates the island as more corrupt than its Eastern Caribbean neighbors. Given the state of Grenada's court system, one can expect the island's ratings to fall further. What then are the long-term consequences for the island if the court situation persists?
Good question.
Right? You see, people don't realize the damage that is being done, right? Things reach a tipping point for them to realize. And when you reach a tipping point, it's too late.
Yeah.
Right? And we are approaching the tipping point in so many aspects of the society.
Guys, let me ask you this. The court system has failed. And in recent times, and I'm referring to areas such as the electoral process, the Caribbean Court of Justice, and now pensions and gratuity, we're seeing that our Constitution is failing us. Is anyone looking at the big picture?
I don't think it's the Constitution. I think it's the
Constitution is being disregarded.
Well, you can't if you don't have a legal system, a judicial system function. How are you going to respect the Constitution?
Exactly. You're not blaming the Constitution. The Constitution, okay, it may need changes, but big deal. It's whether or not the Constitution is respected. And in recent times, we're seeing a total disrespect.
Well, that is a symptom and not a cause. Okay? My reading of the situation is, and it goes outside of justice system, but it has to do with measuring a country's performance by debt to GDP ratio and falling into the clause of the international, the IMF. Okay? They restrict. Why is Grenada not spending money on its infrastructure, like roads? You realize we still drive on the same roads that I drove on when I was a little boy. And, even people in the country with no education or in the town with no education would tell you, if you keep stuffing things in a bag, eventually the bag's going to bust. right? It doesn't take any kind of education to come to that conclusion. And I think to some extent, seeking to please the IMF, because China and Singapore and these countries have debt to GDP ratios of in excess of 240%. And they take on it as this: as long as you can service your debt and advance your society and advance your economy, debt to GDP ratios has no significance, right? And we are boasting that Grenada's economy is the fastest growing and the best growing in the Caribbean. Perhaps
What is growth? That's my question.
which is your
How
country?
do you measure growth? I mean, I know the
number of buildings you build,
well,
the number
you
of
know,
cars you
the
have on the
economists
road.
have their measures and so on, but I always take issue with these statements of how fast we're growing in one area or by what percentage or the other, because sitting from where I sit and with the admittedly biased concerns I have as someone who is within the judicial system, I can't see how you could take comfort in any kind of economic growth measured in percentage points when you have a
Exactly.
situation like this, where you're treating your judicial system practically as an afterthought, and it is a critically needed pillar for all aspects of development and growth, it seems to me. So maybe, by economic measures, Grenadians will be best able to tell you whether those percentage points mean anything to their daily lives, but certainly within the sphere that I operate in and that I am most concerned about and which I have the responsibility to advocate for as president of the bar, I don't see how you should be embarrassed to be speaking of growth when you have a situation like that to attend to in Grenada. There cannot be, and again, this is an historic problem. You can count the number of years this has been allowed to degrade and decay to the point where it has reached. I am not going to be the one pointing fingers, but whoever, as a continuum, government is responsible for addressing this. And I will not accept that you can tell me on the one hand that Grenada is growing. And I take your point, Leon, and maybe that is where government officials get excited, because they don't seem to get excited about the nature and extent of the problem we are confronted with when your judicial system is lying in tatters. But then when the agencies that rate things come and tell you, well, listen, from our latest round of interviews, and I know it is coming, we have found that from last year to this has deteriorated to this extent, and therefore we're dropping your whatever, your number from this to the other. That's when they start getting excited. But then in the intervening period, what do you do to cause a difference? You can pass laws because, and this is one of the disappointments I have to express as I speak about passing laws. I listened to the presentation of our Minister of Legal Affairs during the budget debate, and that is where I wanted to get an indication that I could take comfort that the cooperation which we are lauded for is being, in a sense, rewarded by steps being taken to achieve a result. But when I listened to the presentation, I couldn't take comfort. I heard a presentation that was overwhelmingly skewed in the direction of a particular constituency. And I expect, I live in the, I know as a minister, you have two, in a sense, agendas as a minister. You have to be mindful of your constituency, but you also have to be mindful of the portfolio which you carry. And in this instance, the Ministry of Legal Affairs. And I heard some talk about, legislative achievements in laws that were passed. And at the very end of the speech, I heard almost in passing some mention that there was a little problem with the court that we were confident was going to be addressed. I couldn't take comfort from that. What concretely is going to be done? And with what level of urgency? I am not at liberty to tell you why, for instance, the promised purchase of that building did not materialize, but I'm at liberty to tell you that the government allowed itself, I use that term deliberately, to be outbid for that property by another institution. And so that calls to mind, well, how seriously were you really going after this as a part-time solution or temporary solution to the crisis we face, when you allow yourself to be outbid? What appetite did you really have for fixing this problem? And then having been outbid, having promised that we were going to get that facility to restart and re-kick, or court system, we heard nothing. I had to be harasser in chief. That's practically the role that I have to, okay, I know for a fact you haven't said so publicly that we're not going into that building. What's the next step? And you have to be calling and going to meeting after meeting, and that's not my role. The government should be equally, if not more excited than the Bar Association to find a solution to this problem. It shouldn't take us having to be prodding and poking and harassing people and reminding them that we gave them the deadline of the 31st of December to fix this problem for something to be done concretely.
All right, Lisa, there could be a lot of reasons why things aren't happening. And let me ask both of you, is this, and this is the traditional excuse, lack of financing? Hold on a minute.
Lack of...
Hold on.
No, I didn't hear.
Lack of finances.
Okay.
Lack of finances, okay?
Skewed priorities.
Is it a lack of finance? Is it a lack of know-how? Or folks, I hate to drop this on you, is this a part of a strategy?
Well, I can't speak to strategy.
No.
But I prefer to look at it, not that I prefer it. My assessment of it is that it's a matter of where the priorities lie. And part of it may just be a lack of...
where the priorities lie. Lisa, from what I mentioned at the top of the program here, this stuff has been going on for years. And we have found money to do a lot of other things in the interim.
That
Why
isn't
not
lost
this?
on us, but I don't know enough to tell you that I can accept your characterization that it's a strategy. It may seem that way, and I can understand why.
I'm asking.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'd hate to think that there's a strategic plan to decimate or ignore.
I can't see a strategic plan.
Okay, fine. But
Okay.
I'm asking,
But that's the
how
result.
come... Well, that's the result.
Well-
Okay, but how come have we been able to find money to do a lot of things in the interim?
Yeah.
Well, I have another article that I'm preparing. It's rather arduous task because it covers many areas out of my discipline. But I think that my guess is we have fallen into the clutches of the IMF. For example, the issue of the pension, whatever it is, gratuity, boils down to limits have been set of 9% of recurrent expense, and they can't go past that. But who set that? Priorities set limits. Somebody who says your priority is debt to GDP ratio, okay? We want to see it down at 50%. Why? Those people, all right, who are imposing that on the government, if you want to say, convincing the government that this is right, don't live here, right? They're not. The dissatisfaction that it's being caused in the community, they don't have a measure of it. Grenada's in 2013, Grenada's standing out of 190 countries in ease of doing business was 100. In 2018, it's dropped down to the 142nd. It's got 48 more positions to drop to reach the bottom, but it's dropped down to 142. So, I mean, it's one thing. It's one thing. You choose that. People that write about this talk about the clutches in the lender of last resort as being the IMF. And China and Singapore and these countries in Southeast Asia only grew when they moved away from the IMF and started to invest in what? Infrastructure. The Chinese spend 9% of their GDP on infrastructure, right? And look at how they've grown. They started to spend 9%. But the infrastructure is targeted to specific goals, investment and production of GDP and improving things in the community, right? Western countries spend 2 to 4% of their GDP, okay? So everything seems faster, for example, better in Singapore. Traditionally, they're the top one or two country, position 1 or 2 in ease of doing business and being, corruption, not corrupt. So I don't know.
And the interesting thing is, Leon, I've heard in this local space mention of the Singaporean, if I could call it that, model repeatedly. It seems to be something that we aspire to, or we certainly admire.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think what needs to be looked at is there needs to be an examination of how they got to that point. And are we prepared to do what it takes, the hard choices that it took for them when they proceeded on that path to get them where they are? Because every so often you hear people talking about looking to the Singaporean model, but what did they do to get there?
Didn't happen in a vacuum.
I mean, we could spend the next week talking about our historical lurches between IMF and World Bank interventions. That's a topic for maybe,
But what
I hear what you say. There's very little
what they
choice.
did do is get away from the IMF.
When you approach the IMF, whether because you choose or you could decide whether it's a choice really, you have to follow the dictates of the lending comes with certain conditions, and I take what you say, but I still go back to this. There's a fundamental misunderstanding or lack of understanding of the important role that and connection there could be between a functioning judicial system and a functioning society. And the connection there could be between a functioning judicial system and pathways to economic growth.
Yes,
I think
it's essential.
If you understand, for instance, that if you don't do what is necessary to fix the problem at your deeds and land registry, where in a sense it fuels a large aspect of our commercial hub or commercial practice. Every land transaction in Grenada, the registry has a role to play, and the ascertainment of title to land, because we don't have a system of land registration as yet, is critical. So when we allow all of what is necessary to satisfy a lender, a would-be purchaser, of the accuracy of a vendor's title to land, when we let that degrade to the point where you can't guarantee that title, then you're basically eroding a very large part of your commercial space. Lending is going to be more difficult because banks are going to be more reluctant to advance monies to purchasers to purchase property where they can't be certain that the title issues, they rely on advice on title before they will lend money. People will be more reluctant to purchase land where the risk attendant on uncertainty of title is too great for them to accept. And it's a cycle, it's a circle. And if we appreciate the important role that plays in a large part of our commercial space, if we appreciate that, then we would put the resources that are necessary to take care of the degradation that we're seeing there. I'll give you an example of the extent of that degradation. We're still in a very unhappy, I can't go into why that is so. We were supposed to be advancing from a situation where clerks sit down laboriously writing in handwriting the details of land transactions in those big fat ledgers at the registry. We were supposed to be digitizing. There are reasons why, I won't go into it, that has not been successful. So we still face that situation. And we are confronted now with a problem that the bar is working very hard to try and see if it could be addressed, where literally we ran out of books at the registry. I mean, you can't get more farcical than that. Yeah? And for whatever reason, that was allowed to happen. So for a period of time, these books were not available so that the clerks could sit down and handwrite and put the information in. So if you were searching title, you sent up your search clerk. There came a point in that search where you came into a dead end, and the dead end was that the information from that point onwards was not available because they were awaiting the books to be written up. You can't get more ridiculous than that as far as the lack of attention to something as critical as ascertaining title. That is absolutely required. If you're buying a piece of land, you're selling it, you've inherited it, you want to do something, a lender is waiting to get advice from its lawyers about whether or not that's a good risk to lend money on. You can't get more ridiculous than that. Right? And I deliberately gave you that example to let you know how something that may seem innocuous and simple can have such a profound effect.
Well,
Go ahead, Leon.
disputes are any investment carries risk of disputes, right? Everything. You take Silver Sands. The people next door say they didn't like the gas line, blah, blah, and these things. These are resolved in the court, and they have to be resolved quickly, right? So anybody doing business has to hang around. It's very difficult to do business when you get to that stage, and that's the worst rating that Grenada has, right? But I have to say that I am amazed that the clerks in the registry still perform, right? And you have to congratulate them for that, because they can still find things, right? Which is amazing. So they obviously work very hard and work very good. So, but it's not modern. It's not. I take your point.
Need a lot more support. But I take your point. I am amazed that not the registry and the court staff, that they continue to be troopers to some extent. We have the slackers and we have the, what have you. But
everywhere.
You have a core of very dedicated staff working under extremely adverse conditions. And they continue to try their best to, let the system continue to hum along as best it can in the circumstances. And I would always want to laud them for that.
In the same way that people sometimes complain about various ministries, I mean, such as maybe the Ministry of Agriculture or the Ministry of Health, is it that this particular ministry, which would be the Ministry of Legal Affairs, if I'm not mistaken?
Pretty much.
Okay, would it be that it's just mismanaged?
It lacks attention, it lacks focus, it lacks resources.
Yes.
I think if the right resources were deployed, there are good people who are well-intentioned, who could make...
No, stop. Having resources, having people, that's only part of it.
Yeah.
The management of the ministry has to play a role.
Yeah, but that
You
comes...
could have all the money in the world you want, and you ain't going to succeed.
You're right, but that comes after giving people the right resources to work with. Then you can manage them. You can't manage somebody without if he doesn't have the things to work with. Okay.
All right. Okay, guys. I'll tell you what. Let me take a mini break here, if you will, and then we're going to come back, because I'm sure that you folks have a little bit more to say before we set you free. And by the way, Lisa, I noticed that. Let me bring this up. I have to show these people what I'm talking about. Lisa is wearing a T-shirt here. You know I'm very observant. She's wearing a T-shirt here. When she came in here this morning, I said, "My goodness, look at that tie. Look at that." Leon, take a look. Look over here.
I didn't see.
Look at that tie.
It's a familiar tie. It's a familiar tie.
Yeah. Lisa, I mean, come on. You're
beautiful.
You're not only an attorney, you're the president of the Bar Association. You couldn't buy a real tie to come in here and see me this morning?
It's just, this is my homage to my alma mater. I'm thinking of the students and teachers at the school that is dear to me. I had them in mind. I've had them in mind, as I have in mind all the teachers and students of our nation at this time.
Yeah.
And like others, I join in praying and hoping that some resolution could be found. It's a school that's dear to me.
Yeah.
And when I was preparing to come, I just put it on just to touch base with, an important part of my development in life.
Well, thanks for being so thoughtful. And there's somebody out there in Carriacou who says on Facebook, she says, "I just love Lisa. Although I don't know her, I admire your frankness and talking with confidence about what is happening with our court system. God bless you, my dear. Lisa Taylor, kudos to you. Stay strong and continue with the struggles. See, girl, there are people out there who recognize what's going on.
Yeah, they need to speak truth to power.
Yeah.
Overused cliche, but it's needed in a time like this.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me take a little break here, and then we'll come back with Lisa and Leon.
Hubbard's, bringing you Frigidaire Christmas cheer. With the purchase of any Frigidaire fridge, freezer, stove, washer, or air conditioning unit, you get a free 3-piece Frigidaire non-stick pot set. Come into our appliance department on the Carronage and Building Supplies Grandlands to get your trusted Frigidaire products and enhance your cooking this Christmas. Offer available while stocks last. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Boy, it's Christmas again.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Why wish upon a star? For a bank is better by far. Whatever you're wishing for this Christmas, will give you low interest and no fuss.
Co-op Bank is making Christmas wishes come true. Fix up your home, treat your loved ones, and get everything on your Christmas list this year with our no-fuss loans. As we count down the 12 days to Christmas, you can win awesome prizes every day. Special terms and conditions apply.
Christmas wishes come true with Co-op Bank and you.
Welcome home.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Alrighty, folks, we are back. We are back. Now, I'm going to get back to Lisa and Leon in just a minute, but I've just realized here that we really haven't paid a lot of attention to those of you on the shout box for a little while. So just let me sneak back here. MSF says, Mr. Taylor, you have touched on two key things that China and Singapore did that we have not done. One, they stepped away from the IMF and they focused on targeted infrastructural development. We chose the easy way of getting money from the IMF, and beggars can't be choosers. Secondly, we pursued development without any clearly outlined goals, and as such, we will be forever stuck in this morass. So says MSF, and she's listening to you guys out there in New York. Folks, I have been very negligent when it comes to those of you who are joining us around the world, so please just let me take a half a minute here to say howdy doody to the people out there in Stuttgart, Germany, in Brooklyn, New York, Roseau, Dominica, Manchester in England, Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, Las Vegas, Nevada, Brampton, Ontario, Toronto, Ontario, Tottenham in England. There's also quite a few people out there in Germany this morning. Richland, Virginia, Charlotte, North Carolina, Wilde, Barbados, Roadtown of the Virgin Islands, Washington, D.C., Toronto, Markham, Ontario, Fort Lauderdale, Virginia Beach in Virginia, Montreal, Quebec. Oh, yeah, let me see. Dallas, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona. A lot of people in Toronto as well. Basseterre and St. Kitts, Etobicoke, Ontario, Delray Beach in Florida. I'm skipping through a lot of these. Cashalton in England, Wilde, Barbados, Vancouver, BC. Hey, what time's in Vancouver? It's 11:15 here, 11:14, and they should be, about 4 hours behind us? You guys are early. 7:14 in the morning in Vancouver. Thornhill, Ontario. Kingston, Jamaica, London, England, St. John's, Antigua, Mage in Switzerland, Roseau, Dominica, Westbury in New York, Maple, Ontario. A lot of duplicates here. Wilde, Barbados, Kingston again, Richmond Hill in Ontario, Roadtown in the Virgin Islands, Pompano Beach, Windlesham in England, Port of Spain, Trinidad, Tunapuna in Trinidad, Mississauga, Ontario, Buffalo, New York, and a whole lot more. Folks, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, before we run out of time, I want to quickly ask both of you folks, big question. We have sat here for the last little while talking about how bad things are. Okay, Lisa, you are at the heart of this, okay? And having listened to you, I can tell that you have ideas. Try and chronicle the way forward for me. Say, okay, this is what our priorities need to be. We need to have the system addressed? Yes. How?
I was having a discussion recently with one of our senators, in fact, a lawyer, who is, I am convinced, equally concerned, and I've been hoping that from where that person sits, they can have some influence. And we've been discussing something along the line of, I know this is an American concept. From time to time, when you have a fairly significant problem, you hear in the press mention of a czar being appointed. I've always thought that to be a very interesting concept, especially given the origin of the word czar, but I digress. I think we need something along the line of a super manager, whether a czar, I don't know at this point. I mean, ideally, it ought to be something along the lines of a collaboration between your Attorney General, Attorney General's chambers, your Ministry of Legal Affairs, however it is oriented or configured. But we need something or someone or something of a super agency to take a global look because there are so many problems. It's not, I mean, I've been focusing on the court facilities, but that's only one of the seven. The entire system needs to be taken in hand, every aspect, every single aspect. Support for the judges in writing their judgment, appointment of judicial clerks. We have a situation where we actually have someone who has been appointed to give support to the judges. There is no physical space to put that person. The court facilities, obviously, the urgent attention that's needed at the registry, the urgent attention that's needed to the transcription office so that more transcripts could be written. It's literally everything. So I think it needs to be something that cannot be done in a piecemeal fashion. You need to take somebody needs to be appointed or commissioned or resourced to take this thing at a global level and put together a master plan to address every aspect of the failing system. I can't articulate it other than that.
To be implemented over a period of time.
Over a period of time. First, we have to understand and confront what the nature of the problem is, and that's the first step.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't help when you have pronouncements from the authorities which seem to suggest that they are content to gloss over. So I don't know if it is a deliberate attempt to minimize the severity of the problem or it is that they don't get it. So whatever it is, they have to get it. They have to confront it. Yes? We must identify in its full scope the extent of the problem and then set about a plan to fix it and to fix every aspect. So getting us a court complex is one important part, but we can't forget the registry. We can't forget the needs of the judges. We can't forget all the very many aspects that make up the efficient functioning of a judicial system. And it must be addressed at that level.
Leon, as a prospective user prospective user of the system, you know, when the system is fixed, what would you like to see happen? You just heard her outline some things that need to be done. What would you like to see?
Well, that's a difficult question because
speedy justice.
Justice? Well, I don't think you can just look at justice alone. I think you have to look at the whole infrastructure required to have a society in Grenada. The unfortunate part is that we are a small island without much resources. And in the past, we depended on aid to help us with infrastructure. Certainly you had the sewage system was put in by the Canadians, the landfill, the Perseverance, Telescope, and in Carriacou was also done by Canadian aid. But aid has largely disappeared.
Dried up,
dried up. So there has to be some fund, some source of money that was available to fund an assessment. You would start with an assessment of the resources we have, technical, the facilities we have and what we need and what we want to do. All that has to be defined and then funded. In my opinion, looking at it, the Climate Resilience Fund is a source of money for Grenada. If you forget about global warming and these sort of things, because Climate Resilience Fund seeks to create in a country or in a society a resilience to catastrophic events that be they caused by climate or something else, so that the community can get back working.
May I interrupt here for a minute? Why would they be willing to use resources from the climate resilience for something to deal with the legal environment?
Well, you would have to make a case for all of these things.
Make a case for it. I mean, we are far removed from the last catastrophic climate event which caused the kind of disruption that we experienced. But you could certainly make a case for it. We have recent examples in Dominique and so on, where you could say, look at the trajectory from 2004 to now. Although again, I'm not blaming all of it on Ivan, but you could probably make a case that if you focus your attention on at least making sure that your facilities are built in such a way to withstand, because of the important role that the facilities play and the housing of the, whatever else, you could make a case for that. But we also forget, I hear tell that the CBI fund is meant to aid in developmental issues or projects and whatever else. We can't all just build hotels from the CBI. The tourism industry on its own is not going to be the only path forward for development. So why don't we look at that as well?
Well, you see the commotion that has. Well, I will tell you right now, Sandals is trucking water, right? I understand Silver Sands ran out of water on Friday.
And we're not yet in the dry season.
And they said, you hear the public seems to accept when they inquire as to what the hell is going on, is the situation is being handled. That's a new term that is used. The situation is being handled. Certainly in water, when you look at water, there's production of water and there's distribution. Well, where is the problem? Right? If you can put as much pipes down as you want, but if you don't have the production of water to put in the pipe, nothing will happen. So, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done, and the resources we have are hard pressed to perform. Right?
What about the willpower?
The what?
The willpower.
Well, it's only so much. I think I have established this paper I did on the algae on Grenada's beach. I gave it to plan, and I said, look, you need to have this because this is, and they were surprised and they were very grateful for it. But I've been trying to have a meeting with the guy now for, I don't know, a month, right? I want to offer my services gratis to them. I don't mind, right? If they want me as an advisor, I certainly would be happy to help them. But I can't get an appointment. He's always out in the field somewhere. So, I think they're overloaded. And I think a lot of things, the registry, you have one stenographer?
Well,
presently,
there's one. There's some, but you see, it's a technical skill, which is why I'm happy to hear that there's some budget allocation for that. But then people have to be trained. We have one registrar, one deputy registrar. There's some challenges there as well because I won't get into it. But on the question of willpower, I'll share this with you, George. It's somewhat related. Every time I've had cause to bother, which is what I've been doing a lot of, bothering people, whether it's the person in charge of the ministerial committee for finding a court or the minister herself, legal affairs, I always make this point. I recognize that, the judiciary is not, the woes of the judiciary are not sexy. Mm-hmm. We don't have any big plan. There'll be no ribbon cutting. When the system works efficiently, nobody hears about it. Yeah. People get their cases heard, they get their judgments. If they don't like it, they appeal. The system ticks along. Yeah. You go and you buy a piece of land, you go to the bank, you get your mortgage, it ticks along. We don't really, is when things fall apart. So I always make the case when I say, when you go to cabinet, sell this problem as something, then make it sexy. Mm-hmm. Make it as sexy as opening a road that gets featured on GIS, of cutting a ribbon for a building. Make it important.
There's no PR.
There's no PR because we just come along in the judicial system and you only hear it when the lawyers are doing bad things, when the judges do ridiculous things, when you get a judgment you don't like, when there's some minor celebrity involved. Yeah. Other than that, the judicial system just quietly goes about its business. Yeah. And you don't hear about it. But when it's broken.
Yeah. But you see, in my opinion, a lot has to come from the very low strata of society, push upward.
Yeah. You're right.
Right? You can't have people like us talking. It has to be. So that requires education of the population.
When your son sits in jail.
Education of the population is to say, well, look, this is important to you because Grenadians are not stupid.
Yeah. Well, Leon, that's what people like me try to do here, try to inform the people. I don't like using the word educate because me ain't no professional educator, but I like to inform people. And I'm seeing in recent times Grenadians starting to ask a lot more questions than they did in the past. They're becoming a lot more astute.
Yeah.
Should.
Okay. So hopefully there's something positive.
You see, what has happened in terms of corruption, corruption perception, Transparency International has recommended that whistleblowers ought to be protected because they perform.
Kind of late for me, eh?
They ought to be protected and even rewarded because that is the way that you stop corruption.
Yeah.
You stamp out corruption. Unfortunately, whistleblowers in this part, I don't care which party is in power, are seen as political opponents. And their interest is generally for seeking to solve problems, making the government aware of problems.
And the downside to that is that you get so conspiratorial minded that something as commonplace as a judge or a court sitting on a Sunday is viewed through the public lens as something that is sinister. And a lot of people, I saw this brouhaha going on about the fact that for a matter which is of urgent and pressing need, an injunction, a judge can sit any day of the week and any place. Now, there's a corollary issue to that as to whether or not your registry can be open on a Saturday. I won't speak further on that because that is going to find its way in the right forum. But I want to assure the public, if you are, no, realistically, a man of the street is probably not going to be able to persuade a registrar to disturb a judge on a Sunday. But certainly if the government says we have a matter that's of national importance, the law allows for it. The rules allow for it. I mean, I have gone and got judgments Friday afternoon, well after hours in a judge's house with the clerk, and because the nature of urgent relief and the law contemplates is that you ought to be able to have access to a judge or a court whenever and wherever. So that really was not. But because we are minded for conspiracies, everyone saw that was something untoward, and it wasn't necessarily that at all.
Thank you for bringing that up, Lisa. That really needed to be clarified.
Yeah.
Lisa and Leon, boy, you just have no idea how appreciative I am of having been able to sit here and talk with you guys, because I'm sure that you opened up a lot of eyes this morning. And hopefully the people who are listening, you raised an important point. It has to come from the grassroots, Leon. And hopefully we can stimulate that, mobilize it, if you will, and see people speak out a lot. But, speaking out a lot, once upon a time you used to hear a lot about restrictions to freedom of speech in this country, okay? Today, with this medium, what you call social media, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. But the problem with it, Leon, is that a lot of it is misguided, misled, malicious, deliberately, in some cases, malicious. And I mean, I'm someone who's been fighting for freedom of the press, freedom of the media all my life. I've been in this business 43 years, okay? But it bothers me when I sometimes see what passes out there as free media. I see you nodding your head, Lisa.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a force for good and it's a force for bad.
Yeah.
I don't know in what measure.
The platform is fine. It's just how we use it.
How we use it.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, thanks a lot, guys, and I hope you'll come back in here and sit and talk again. Not necessarily about this issue, or maybe you'll come back here and say, "Hey, George, guess what, man? That conversation we had on your program the other day, man, I see that doing something about it. Wouldn't that be great?"
I'll come back when we get a hold of justice.
When you get a hold of justice.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to hold it to that, folks.
Yeah, but I'll be a lot grayer, I promise you that.
Yeah. I mean, you have to realize that throughout my existence in Grenada, I've always kept a low profile and intend to keep a low profile. You had to cajole me to come on the first radio thing. But I think it's important. I know my shelf life is finished, and I don't know how long I'm going to be here. again. But I think it's necessary to pass on what I know and what I see. And I'm amazed how insular people have become, you know. Now when this is social media, they actually put an article up and they say 2-minute read, 3-minute read.
Yeah, I know.
Right? In other words, nobody wants to spend more than time. I have sent things to friends of mine, educated friends of mine, and you said, you expect me to look at this thing for 2 hours? You're crazy.
Yeah.
Right? I said, well, it's important.
Yeah. Everything in a heartbeat nowadays. Okay. Leon, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. You take care of yourself. And Lisa, you too. Always such a pleasure having you here. Good luck with your Bar Association. I mean, I really look forward to hearing a lot from the Bar Association, Lisa. I want to hear you. I want to hear you talk.
Yeah, but I have to say this. I mean, we are expected to say something about everything, but this is such a fundamental problem. It is all consuming. We have to get this sorted. So I know I certainly had to confess and apologize in relation to the CCJ matter as well, where the bar did not play the role I expect it should play, but in the circumstances, and which is why eventually we called for there to be some brakes applied, because we didn't think the ground was fertile, and at the time we were and still are dealing with a problem of fundamental importance. So I mean, and I know I hear the calls from time to time. Every social problem that arises, people expect to hear the bar. In some instances, justifiably so. In other instances, where I think it's a matter that ought to wind its way through public discourse, and we
Lisa,
don't necessarily have to jump on, but I stay away.
Perhaps it's the bar's turn. You said people need to turn somewhere.
Yes.
They have not been able to turn to the churches. They've not been able to turn to their government, and now so they're coming to the Bar Association.
And
Saddle up, girl.
And the difficulty with that as well is you have to navigate whether when you speak, you're really speaking for the bar, where there may be so many different views and points of view. And I certainly don't want to promote my personal view. I try to take a gauge from my executive. I try to listen to the lawyers. Right. But that too is a constraint, because when you speak for an organization as important as this one, you need to be very measured and careful in what you say, and make sure that you're speaking as best as possible with a mind for the consensus of the bar on that issue. And that's difficult to do.
Thanks a lot.
Let me ask one simple question. What would happen if the Bar Association, all the lawyers, down tools and went on strike?
Well, I'll tell you something. We've done it before. Leon, don't provoke me now.
No, I wonder if
we've done it before.
I don't know how much of an effect it would have.
The irony was, the last time we did that, it was probably one of the rare instances where the bar really saw things pretty much the same way, the bar members, with one or two dissenting. And we down tools, but here's the irony. We down tools by not going to court. How do you not go to a court that you don't have? I leave that there.
I hope the questions get easier than that. I can't answer that one. So I hope the questions get easier. Thanks a lot, guys.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Okay, I've been talking with Lisa Taylor, that young lady here with the fake tie. And this gentleman here by the name of Leon Taylor. They still call you Ultimo?
Yes.
They still call you Ultimo.
Yeah.
Okay, you're enjoying your retirement? Are you enjoying your retirement?
With age, procrastination comes. Procrastination at any age is bad.
Enjoy your procrastination. Thank you very much, folks. We are going to take one more little break here, and then we'll come back with the senators as they took off in the Senate this past week.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Why wish upon a star? For a bank is better by far. Whatever you're wishing for this Christmas, will give you low interest and no fuss.
Co-op Bank is making Christmas wishes come true. Fix up your home, treat your loved ones, and get everything on your Christmas list this year with our no-fuss loans. As we count down the 12 days to Christmas, you can win awesome prizes every day. Special terms and conditions apply.
Christmas wishes come true with Co-op Bank and you.
Alrighty, folks, right now, what we're going to do is turn to a sitting of the Senate, which occurred this past week. A couple of things caught my attention. First of all, the senator who represents Labor, Andre Lewis, in the Senate, he touched on a number of issues. One being job losses, which is of concern to a lot of people with the proposed takeover of Scotiabank by Republic Financial. He also talked about the fact that our new press secretary is going to be getting a salary increase, I think, from $72,000 to $90,000. I'm thinking about giving up this business here, and maybe find some useful work. And he also talked about another issue. So what I'd like to do right now, I took those three clips and put them together. And I want to run that by you right now. Check it out.
I want to start off, Mr. Deputy President, by addressing some uncertainties at the moment, and it has to do with job losses. Because as we speak, my heart goes out, my concern goes out to the workers from Bancroft, Nova Scotia. I'm aware that the government of Grenada, through our Prime Minister, has welcomed the takeover or the buying over of Scotia by Republic. I'm aware that other people in the country have seen this as a positive move. But that's when you look at numbers. But when you look at human beings, colleagues, senators, I held a meeting on Monday afternoon with these workers. We represent them. And I hear all these things about the economy. Human beings are who we are here to serve. And it's not about numbers and what is printed. At the end of the day, it has to be translated into something. And therefore, I would have preferred to have heard a response from the government which empathizes with the possible fallout that will come on these workers. It has become too much of a routine exercise for me to be visiting workplaces, to be speaking to workers about job losses. Be it in cable and wireless, that has moved from over 200 workers to under 10 workers, while at the same time, we recognize the quality of services that we are having. And while at the same time, let me address it, that with the taking over or the buying over of Columbus Communication, so you have Heritage Cable and Wireless workers, and you have Heritage Columbus workers, Flow, doing the same job in the same space, but the company is arguing that it is two different companies and paying them different wages. And as we fight for it, and you don't hear much about it, so when you hear us on pension, it means that it is deep and big. We represent thousands of workers in this country. How many times have you heard us hit in the streets on matters? So it shows the importance and significance, or a level of responsibility that causes us to take certain measures in advancing the cause of the workers that we represent. So in Cable and Wireless, for instance, and I made a commitment to the company that even if the owner sits in Miami, or they sits in London, or they sits in wherever, I will expose it. It is just unfair. You can't have a worker, heritage Cable and Wireless worker, making almost twice or 1/3 more the salary of a worker who is even probably more highly trained, because the platform that Cable and Wireless is using right now is significantly from Columbus Communication. So I'm just putting this on the table. Yes, I'm putting this on the table. I'm putting the Scotia experience on the table. So in Antigua, for instance, we have Prime Minister Gaston Brown saying, hold on, Republic, hold on, Scotia, march bricks, not so fast. At the end of the day, it may happen. But what it demonstrates is this Prime Minister's understanding, likewise in Guyana, of the implications for the worker who has a family, for the worker whose family, after being informed that in 6 months' time, someone who has made a career in banking does not know what will happen to them. And this child would have to be psychologically prepared. And that's the discussion that we had with the workers. I have been doing that to regular colleagues. I would like to hear the government, in other words, make pronouncements on these issues rather than welcoming it. Because when you buy over on your merge, and I buy the argument that it is Republic, it is regional, right? But I've also heard the argument that Republic may be positioning itself for takeover by another entity. And these are quality jobs. These are quality jobs. We do not want to have a state of people depending on the state. We want to ensure that our policies and our policymakers stand up and speak out and find ways and means of encouraging investors and existing investors to hold on to jobs rather than appearing to encourage it. Just for the record, that there on page 103, under the same vote 10, there is budgeted increase for the salary of the press secretary. I'm just noting it, from 72,000 to 90,000. And the figures on page 106, salary of the secretary to cabinet from 72,588 to 97,512. Ministry of Labor, which is extremely dear to us. There is a need to strengthen the personnel in the Ministry of Labor. If we give labor the importance that we ought to give it, because when foreign investors come into this country and they employ people, they employ our people, we have to ensure that our workers are treated with respect, honor, and dignity, and especially in these places that are not organized or unionized. And Senator George, bear with me if I can respond to what is my understanding of a point that you started to make yesterday. If I'm wrong, I back off. I gathered from you, and you make mention about our culture and what we did in the past and rights of access, but we need to bear in mind that with foreign investors coming in, we have to find some kind of middle ground, right? I think that that's where you're going, and I made a note that there are some things we must never compromise. We must never compromise access to our beaches. I'll make that point, right? We must never compromise. No problem. If I have it wrong, I stand there. Yeah, sure.
Mr. Deputy President.
Senator George?
Yes. I think I rise on a point of order to clarify my statement made yesterday. I do believe that my colleague does have it wrong. So if I may, I would like to reiterate and clarify my point. I did indicate my understanding of the concerns in relation to access and my agreement that those were valid concerns. My reference to consensus was in relation to accepting the need for injection of foreign investment into the economy. Yes.
Thank you very much for the clarity. Because I would have been disappointed had this been the case, because my respect for you and my understanding of you, and that is why I chose to approach it in this way. However, having said that, I still want to make the point that for anyone who think that we ought to compromise on these norms and values, we ought not to in exchange for foreign investors. In other words, foreign investors must respect those cultures and those values that we hold. Yes? Ministry of Labor, as I've been saying, the post of Deputy Labor Commissioner has been outstanding for the longest while to be filled. The last Deputy Labor Commissioner we had was Adrian Persuader Thomas, who demitted office to contest the general election. That's my understanding. What I know as a fact is that he left sometime in 2012 or 2011 or thereabouts. The dates can be always corrected. From then to now, we do not have a Deputy Labor Commissioner. Not only do we don't have a Deputy Labor Commissioner, the post of Senior Labor Officer also needs to be filled. And I'm making a special appeal. Probably it's the wrong place. It may not be probably the other channels, but I will make that appeal anyhow. I'm making a special appeal, a special case. There's an officer in the Ministry of Labor, a senior who has been acting as a senior labor officer for the longest while, for years. I'm making an appeal to the government. I'm making an appeal to the relevant authorities. I've done it elsewhere. This is a national platform, and I'm doing this, to please confirm this individual. Let me make the following point. Performance is not only driven by certification, and there are times experience, many times, experience can equate for certification. I'm making that special appeal. I mean, there are just so much things, so little things that needs to be done.
Okay, folks, that was Senator Andre Lewis speaking in the Senate just this past week. Now, there was another senator who ran into a little bit of a hiccup. Senator Ron Livingston Redhead. He began his presentation by taking a shot at another young senator who spoke just before he did, mention that the senator, his speech or his presentation was pretty much a political campaign, that kind of stuff. And then he stood up and launched into the IMANI program, to the point where he found up on the wrong side. He found himself on the wrong side of Senator Simon Steele and the President of the Senate. Here is Senator Redhead.
What is the IMANI program doing to benefit the young people? No, I would ask this question. What is the relation between the IMANI program and the youth unemployment rate? Where is the data to suggest that it has actually been improving the situation? We're hearing the announcements, we're hearing talk, we're hearing all the goodwill and all this so on, but what is its objective? That is not clear in Budget 2019. And in fact, let me just quote the minister again. And he stated, Mr. Speaker, up until recently, the government bore the cost of the IMANI program, unquote. Now, again, this statement is the catalyst to suggest that this really and truly was a transfer payment Government was just fighting to keep this program alive. The program essentially was living on its fat, and it is just something that they want to sustain, not because they are helping the young people. Because again, how many young people out of the program have received permanent employment? How many of them? What is the rate? What is the status? Nobody seems to know. All we keep hearing is more and more pronouncements. And let's couple that now. Let's look at that situation. So you're saying the business sector has to come on board to pay 50% of the stipend. But you keep expanding the program. You're saying that the farmers can't get benefits because they need to see it as a private sector initiative. They need to do their own thing. They need to become more creative, what have you. But here you have a situation where the government is actually increasing a program to which it can sustain. Then we had a question about fiscal responsibility and fiscal discipline only being applied to the workers. But when you have a situation like this, a transfer payment, this program does not have any data to suggest what is it achieving. But the government is fighting to keep it on. We believe in young people. We want to support young people. But it cannot be that you're setting up something on an unstable foundation and you expect it to survive. I would just like to say for the benefit of this house that a wise man built his house on a rock. Foolish man built his house on sand. While this program sounds good, there is no depth to this program. It's not really changing anything, and we must be honest about that. Now, in addition to this assistance or plea from the private sector, the government is launching a new program. It's called now the Empower Program. Okay, we accept that. We hear you. But I want to really ask the question. Again, you announced this program. It was launched in October of 2018. What is the objective of the program? And let me say this. It says here in the statement that the program was set up to specifically address the challenges facing our young men, unquote. That is all that it says. So the program was launched in October, and it was just set up to specifically address the challenges facing our young men. What is the objective of that? We see, Mr. Deputy President, this as something that could have been best applied under the Ministry of Social Development, not youth. You could have taken that money, and by the way, we don't know how much this program is costing. There was no mention, really. I would have to double-check the bigger budget, the bigger book to really and truly determine. But we don't really see an actual cost in the budget statement. But you announce it. So again, you're saying that you're doing things for the youth. Again, the objective is not clear. We don't know what the purpose of this is. We don't know, again, what will it really address. Specifically address the challenges facing our men. That's all it says. That's not sufficient. So if we are talking about advancing social development, if you are talking about transforming our economy, these things cannot happen in isolation. That is the real link that I'm trying to make. You cannot just announce these things because of words and then expect the public to digest it. And government alone must apply whatever measure it sees fit to determine how it's going to achieve such a program. So you're asking the young men to come on board. What do they do? How do they dress? Where do they go in order to sign up, to apply? What is the method? What sort of thing? Is this just another wing of the IMANI program? The same IMANI program which you announced that you can't pay for, and you're asking the private sector to make 50% of the stipends available to assist? This is not fiscal discipline. Why is it only being applied to the workers and the working people of the country? That is a real question, Mr. Deputy President, that we have to ask. Again, the issue with the IMANI program itself and data, we have a serious challenge with that. I have made efforts in the past to find out a little on the program. And you know what was the funny thing? Every time I go for information, it's either I get a story or some sort of thing. And I don't want to be rash to anybody because I have a very good relationship with people. And people who are doing their work, I don't challenge that. I'm a very, Mr. Deputy President, rational individual. But this is really and truly unacceptable. We cannot be announcing millions of dollars being spent on programs, we say, to transform the youth, and there is no clear objective. So again, we don't know if this program is set up to give a job or to be a job in itself. We don't know. We hear that it is for trainees. But training for what purpose? Is it a training for the private sector? This is what we are not clear on. So I hope this is some serious food for thought in relation to that. Because, Mr. Deputy President, we believe that Grenada needs a proper youth human resource and job training development program, a proper one. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I visited the National Training Agency on more than one occasion. We discussed a number of things related to skill development in the country. But what is apparent, in my view, is there seems to be some disconnect and mismatch. So here we have a program with either employable youth who are unemployed or young people who are underemployed, some of who are skilled already, but they still come into a training program. But you have a large section of the youth population unskilled and are not able to tap into the program. So we discussed in detail some serious initiatives that we believe can help. And one of the things that I want to recommend is the national conversation for the NTA, the private sector, trade unions, and even the government, to form some sort of collaboration to really and truly, once and for all, come up with a program to help in this regard. This program, the IMANI, is insufficient. While we respect the need for the government to invest in training for the youth, it must not see it just to invest the resources into oblivion, and we don't see that the country itself is getting value for it. So, Mr. Deputy President, we have that as a serious challenge. I really want to stress that, because I think throughout the number of years, even going before 2008, the New National Party has always been just using this program for politics. And I want to be very clear. If, in fact, we are engaged in fiscal management, fiscal discipline, no government official must see the need to use the country's resources just to be buying votes. I want to make that absolutely clear, because this, Mr. Deputy President, must tie into the position that I want to raise. Now, I see in the Prime Minister's ministry that $6 million was budgeted, right? Now, that is grant funding. We respect that. $6 million was budgeted for the period 2008. In this budget statement, it said that, in fact, $9 million was spent in his ministry, the Office of the Prime Minister, a non-productive ministry, right? Even if we are getting free money, even if we are getting whatever the thing is, I do not understand what the Office of the Prime Minister is doing with that large amount of monies. And we continue to monitor this situation because, in fact, the last time we raised the question, we were told...
A point of order, Chair.
It's a point of order. You need to say.
A point of order. Allowed the conversation to roll to see where the senator on the other side is going. But what is being done is imputing improper motive. He's taken this conversation far too far now, implying that the IMANI program is politically based. We've just heard presentations on this side going through the content of that program. Now the conversation is raising up to the Prime Minister's office with regard to the intent of this program. Buying votes. Buying votes. That statement needs to be withdrawn, Mr. Deputy President. That statement needs to be withdrawn. The senator on the other side has taken this conversation far too far. We've given him latitude. He is out of order, Mr. Deputy President. I want that statement withdrawn.
Mr. Deputy President, I respect the right of the leader of government's business to raise this point, but I have not imputed anything. I have not. This is, in fact, a fact. And I am not trying to say that that is the objective. I have said, in the budget statement, there is no clear objective set out for the IMANI program. What is the purpose? This is the question that I am trying to ask for the benefit of this House.
Mr. Deputy President, his comments were very clear as to what he believed the motive was. Buying votes. He's smiling, Mr. Deputy President. He knows exactly what he said. He knows exactly what he is imputing. That statement needs to be withdrawn. There is a clear purpose to the program, clear objectives. It's a defined program that has been running for the last 6 years, that you have skilled persons, opportunities created, highly legitimate, highly valuable program. Statements that he is making completely false, and he is imputing improper motive behind that. The statement needs to be withdrawn, Mr. Deputy President. And what I'm hearing, read the script I'm hearing, sounded very much like an argument I heard on the television just a few nights ago on MTV. So some of the arguments that are based behind that are kind of a little suspect. That statement needs to be withdrawn, Mr. Deputy President.
Senator Redhead, based on what I'm seeing here, and I'm just trying to read the standing orders, I will have to ask you to revise your statement.
Well, Mr. Deputy President, I so do accept, and I am sorry for saying that the intent of the program is to buy votes. I am sorry for saying that. So I withdraw it, right? I do apologize. So, Mr. Deputy President.
Leader of the House Business, are you okay with the statement?
I want to hear a very clear statement from him in terms of what statement he made and his withdrawal of that statement, because it's false and incorrect. I want no ambiguity in his response.
Leader of Government Business, I think the statement that he has made is fine. He has withdrawn. Well, not the statement, but he has drawn the meaning. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Leader of Government Business, I think I would just ask him to proceed because he has made an attempt to, and I think that is sufficient at this point in time.
Okie dokie, folks. Yeah, there they go. There they go. Once again, in the Senate. I was just hoping that, with this new session, we would see a change where these people go into that forum every month or whatever, discuss matters which concern you, and not have to be mudslinging at each other, Would be so nice. But keep on dreaming, George. Folks, couple of comments have been posted here on the shout box, but these pertain to the conversation we had with Leon and Lisa just a short while ago. First of all, Kipling Francis says, Mrs. Lisa, I admire your frankness. I thank God for people like you, along with Gigi and a few others. We shall overcome one day. God bless. Thank you, Mr. Leon, for opening a few eyes. Better late than never. Then there is a comment from Bob Marichaux who says, I know very little of her, but am impressed by her presentation. She seems to have a lot to offer. Look out for her in the future. Oh yeah, folks. Oh yeah. Thank you very much for those comments. And we turn, that's by the way on Facebook, turn to MSF on Rumble Chat. And she says, truth hurts. Steele couldn't say what he wants, but the IMANI program is political. Oh, excuse me. Steele could say what he wants, but the IMANI program is political. And the real question still remains, what is the purpose of the program and what is the return on investment? So says MSF. Pilgrims, busy morning it's been, and I thank you so much. We've gone over time by about 6 minutes so far. Thank you so much for being so kind, joining us this morning. Again, we apologize for the hiccups, but just be advised that this afternoon, kick your shoes off and you can go to both Facebook and YouTube and watch this program, hopefully, without the interruptions that you were having this morning. As I pull the curtain down today, as always, a parting word from the Holy Scriptures. This one comes to you from the book of John, John chapter 14, verses 13 to 16. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. If you love me, keep my commands. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and to be with you forever. John 14, 13 to 16. What a comforting reassurance. Okie doke, folks. On that note, I'm going to go try and feed my face. Kind of hungry. Thank you for joining me, and here's an invitation to join me tomorrow morning and every weekday morning at 9 o'clock for Good Day Grenada. George Grant sending God's blessings your way, and by his grace, we'll see you tomorrow.